kind of see what I'm seeing. Well, I'm absolutely covered in bees now. They're all over the camera. They're going everywhere. Wow, look at that.
Oh, they've actually created.
These bees are not happy right now. They're like, how does this thing actually come apart? Hi guys, Nick here from Hidden Valley Bushcraft, and today we quite literally have a hive of activity. I'm allowed jokes like that now, I'm a dad. So what is happening today, rather excitingly, is you can just make out behind me a couple of hives. Now we're going to go and take a closer look, but before that happens, I'm going to need to change my attire and look somewhat a little more like Tom, our resident bee expert. Say hello, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Everyone's a joker here. We're going to be looking at the very Billy basics of setting up and establishing a hive from its very earliest kind of formation as a nucleus.
A nucleus.
And going from that stage into, as time goes on and progresses, fingers crossed, and the bees are happy, into a fully established hive where we can create honey, which will be sold locally, with the proceeds going back into our Woodland Warrior program, which is for injured armed forces, emergency service veterans, personnel, and it's all about using Mother Nature and bushcraft or nature-related activities to get these guys back in the game and get that right mindset to crack on with whatever it is that they need to be doing with their lives. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and so here I am in a bee suit for the first time in my entire life, and I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a moment of anticipation. Now Tom is very kindly holding the camera and is going to be metaphorically holding my hand through this process today. So let's just bear in mind here, as a Royal Marine, I faced many challenges in my former life, and the way I'm going to look at this, fear and excitement come from the same nerve centre in the brain. That's been proven. So it's essentially, the way we need to look at this is, am I feeling scared or am I really feeling excited about this? That's the mindset I'm going to roll with as we head up to this hive. I'm feeling a little bit exposed on my hands, so I'm going to be asking for some gloves, and fingers crossed this goes to plan. Before we go and cross our barrier, our physical barrier of water, I've just learned that bees can be quite reactive to the aftershave that you use. Now fortunately, being a woodsman, I generally smell of wood smoke and fire, but it might also be an idea to not have a shower on the day that you're going to go and mess around with the bees, whether you're going to extract some honey or check on the hive or whatever it is you're doing. And we're going to be learning about some of those basic 101 jobs very, very shortly. Tom, how are you feeling at this point?
I'm confident, I'm not so sure about you. We'll find out in a minute.
Super calm and collected, let's see what happens.
Should I do a bit of talking about the bees? Right?
Yeah, absolutely, run us through it, mate, because I mean this is what it's about, and you've got to learn this stuff from scratch. It's phenomenal. I should also introduce, who have we got here?
Phil.
Hi Phil. We often joke about when in the armed forces, when you turn up with a spot on your face, someone you might be referred to as the beekeeper's apprentice. Phil is the beekeeper's apprentice. Right, take it away, Tom. What do we got here?
Okay, so this is some of the kit that I come out with. If I'm going to go into a hive, it's always good to have some equipment. A lot of the stuff I keep in my apiary site when it comes to the boxes, but things like a smoker, you may have heard of what we call a smoker. That's this device here, and the idea is that you put a fuel of your choice in. I tend to use cardboard. Some people use pellets of some description, wood pellets, sawdust, and then putting grass inside.
Okay, so you're using this recycled...
Yeah, just recycled cardboard.
Okay.
And the idea is that, I guess over millennia, bees have developed a way of protecting themselves and the colonies. And when they smell smoke, if you put smoke into the hive itself, it can have a calming effect, but it can also have a distraction effect. So the bees, believing that their hive is about to be engulfed by flames, go down and gorge themselves on food, i.e. honey. And the idea is almost, you imagine you've just had a massive roast dinner and you want to go and have a fight, you're less likely to do that when you're completely full up. Generally you want to do it on a slightly empty stomach.
What's the box at the back for?
Okay, the box at the back is a bellow, and the idea is that it pushes air actually inside the bottom of the smoker there, which creates the opportunity for smoke to be blown out of the top.
Tom, is that what's keeping me safe today?
It is, yeah, and me and Phil.
Oh, honestly, this is quite exciting. Exciting, notice that word exciting at this point. Okay, what other specialist equipment do we need for 101 bees?
Okay, I like to use disposable gloves, nitrile gloves. Hygiene is really quite important, because the last thing we want to do is introducing anything nasty into the beehive and putting your colony at risk. So if I can go in there with clean hands, if I visited a hive beforehand, then that's a bonus. That's always a good thing. So I've always got nitrile gloves on, either in my bag, in my pot, or in my pocket, that I can always change over. It's always good to have some in your pocket as well, because sometimes you do end up by ripping them.
Cool.
The next thing, probably one of the most important things that you need when you're going into a hive, is what we call a hive tool. It's basically just a piece of metal. This one here has been fashioned, so it's got a couple of little extra bits, a couple of blades and a couple of hooks on there as well. And what you'll find in a minute, Nick, is that the bees, they glue everything down, and it's quite difficult to break things apart. And these hive tools here, they give you the opportunity to break the frames apart within the hive itself, so then you can actually move them around and do whatever you want to with them.
What would you say is your beekeeping EDC, your backup tool, your go-to in case you didn't have any equipment with you and you were called down to the hive because it was an issue? What, if you were mad enough to go for it, what would you be using?
It is the my old faithful, my best mate, my Swiss Army knife.
Absolute classic.
There you go.
There we go. I have one on my Land Rover keys. Brilliant. That's a heartwarming thing to see. Okay, cool. What's happening here with these markers? Just really quickly. Why the markers and why the colours?
Basically, they indicate the year that the queen was born, because the queen, who is basically the most important bee within the hive, she can kind of get caught out amongst the sort of 50,000 bees that could be in there, so it's quite hard to see. So by putting a little marker, it gives us a really good chance to see where she is. But also, depending on what year she was born, we have 5 different colours. We learn those by the term will you rear good, sorry, they've gone round there, good bees, so it should be blue that side there. This year, any queens born this year and mated will be white. Last year, which is what she is in there, will be blue.
I'm kind of, the thing that's worrying me right now is there's an awful lot to learn here, and I'm very fortunate that we're going to have Tom on standby to give us the baby steps walking into this process, and we've got Phil here as well, who's also got some experience with the bees. So fingers crossed, we're going to cross the bridge very shortly and head over to the hive, and I guess we're going to be opening up the hive. And
we'll be opening up the hive. Hopefully they'll be nice and calm. Hopefully as calm as the one that's on your arm right now and has been there for the last 5 minutes, doing absolutely nothing, which I can film now if you like.
Lucky me. Where is it?
There she is.
Ah.
And as with almost all the bees in there, they're females, so that's a worker bee there. And there are 3 different types. You have queens, drones and workers. The majority of them are workers, like her there.
Fascinating.
Just having a little smell of your coat.
Okay, cool. This is about to get very, very real. Here we go. So you can kind of see what I'm seeing. Your vision is greatly restricted. Right.
And it's great for him as well, because the more that he can learn opening up other hives.
Yeah, completely.
Better.
Well, that's the whole point of this entire process, is to encourage armed forces and emergency service personnel into whatever hobbies, whatever support network systems they need to keep doing the job and the good work they're doing, and or encourage them into other employment. You know, that's what the Woodland Warrior program is all about. So this is amazing. So what am I looking at here? So I've got...
Okay, so this is the nuke, which is what they're in at the moment, which is it's kind of like primary school for them before they graduate.
Oh, I can hear that humming. Yep.
You can, can't you?
Yep. And then once they've graduated from primary school,
they go into this thing here.
They go into that one there, secondary school.
And we'll open this up just to sort of show you what it comprises of.
Sure.
This is our roof.
Okay.
Which I've scorched as well using a blowtorch, just to make sure that none of these nasties. We talk about hygiene. If you're using equipment on other colonies, it's always a good idea to give it a good old scorch beforehand. And because it's wood, it can last for 20 or 30 years quite easily. It's English red cedar, so it should last a good generation or more.
It's quite fitting sitting on a pine wood block. So we have Scots pine and European larch in here. Brilliant.
There you go. This is a feeder, which is what we can give them some syrup to sort of get them started along whilst they're sort of graduating from primary school to secondary school.
Okay, so you fill that box with syrup, and that is the feeder. Got it?
Just to give them a head start. Normally when you've got a full-size hive, you wouldn't do that right now. You might wait until winter if they were running out of food. But yeah, to get them started along, that's what we're going to do today. And then this is what we call a crown board, which is a lid. It's multifunctional, and that allows you to put you put feed on top, etc. Normally, when the hive's in its normal activity, you just leave it covered over because there's no need for them to come through that.
Gotcha.
Apologies for the scorched bit. I probably over scorched it, in fairness.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more excitable now. Absolutely amazing creatures, aren't they?
This box here, this is their living quarters really. This is what we call the brood box or the brood chamber. Historically, bees were previously, they'd either find little holes in trees, fallen down trees, or when beekeepers first started keeping them, they would keep them in what we call straw skeps. Unfortunately, when the beekeepers wanted to get the honey and harvest it, they would actually have to kill off the hive or cause it massive damage, which meant that it probably wouldn't recover. And if we sort of fast forward from those days then to probably about 100 years ago plus, somebody called Reverend Langstroth came up with a design of a beehive, which meant that you didn't need to kill the colony or put it in jeopardy.
So this is sustainable beekeeping.
This is kind of sustainable bee. So yeah, this is where the queen will be laying her eggs and the brood, and they'll kind of be growing up. And what we can then do is we can put extra boxes on top of them.
You might have seen that as well at home when you've got those multi-tiered boxes, those super established ones.
So, as we've got the brood chamber here, which is where the queen will be laying her eggs, and hopefully we'll keep the sort of baby bees down here. When the hive becomes more established, what we can actually give them is more space, so that when there's a superabundance of flowers, both producing nectar and pollen, the bees, if you give them enough space, you can trick them to basically bring back more than they need. The whole reason that they actually need or they produce honey is to basically provide food over winter, because as we know, during the winter time flowers aren't in abundance at all. They need to get through to the following year, so that's why they produce honey. By us giving them more space, we take that away with us whilst leaving them enough in the main brood chamber to get through winter.
Hi guys, Nick here from Hidden Valley Bushcraft, and if you're watching today, you are watching us start off the very beginnings of our beehives with expert Tom taking us through all the stages of beekeeping. So like, how does this thing actually come apart? I mean, it's got... Well, oh, is that what that tool's for?
Basically, this is what the tool is for. Because these are brand new, the bees haven't got their little sticky fingers on them and glued them all together and put propolis and wax all over them. So right now we can move these along quite freely. But as you'll see in a minute when we open this one here, they jam everything with propolis and wax. So right now these are...
What is this? What am I looking at?
Okay, this is called a frame. So this is a brood frame, and it's got what we call foundation wax. So that's actually beeswax inside then. It's got a little wire to give it a little bit of structure.
Textured. Yeah, amazing.
It is textured. And what they'll do, the bees, if there is nectar in abundance, they'll actually draw this out and create three-dimensional honeycomb, which is where they'll either lay eggs, put pollen in there, or nectar.
Okay.
So this frame here, this brood chamber here, should I say, it's what we call a commercial size.
Okay.
And you can get them in different sizes.
How many are here?
Okay, there are 11 in this one here. Some have 10, some have 12. These ones here have 11.
Okay, gotcha.
And if I undo these little clips just here.
So you've got some kind of little clips on the sides.
I can take this brood box off and I can show you the floor.
Here's the base frame.
This is the base frame.
Like a mesh.
Yep. So this mesh, it actually gives some ventilation, because ventilation is really quite important for bees.
Okay.
Some people think you need to close them up over winter, but that's actually the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
Ventilation is great. It helps keep the moisture levels down and
Sure.
stops them from freezing when it does get cold.
So what I've done for a base for these hives to sit on is I've just taken an old pallet, I've levelled off a section of the forest floor here, and then I've just used some waterproof membrane and gone ahead and tacked it in just to make like one kind of sealed unit there. So was that the right thing to do? Was that okay?
It's a good thing to do. We might find if they need a little bit more ventilation, we can put another pallet on top of that, which does actually let some more air through.
Okay.
And use that on top. It should sit fine.
Brilliant.
But we'll see how they get on. And that's the thing with bees, a lot of it's trial and error.
Gotcha.
This is the entrance block. It's specially adapted so that the bees, it's enough room for bees to go in, but not big enough for sort of
other
animals,
insects.
Birds and things to go inside as well.
So that's a question I've got, and I've often wondered, What predates a bee? So what other insects could I need to be wary about here in this wider pine wood block? I mean, things like hornets, wasps, are they a problem?
It's the Asian hornet. It's not prevalent here now. You have to report them. They're a reportable species, and they have to basically kill them off. Whereas the European hornet, it lives in harmony with the bees. It doesn't really cause them any issues.
Okay, cool.
The only problems that you can get are from wasps when they try and rob the hive for honey, basically.
That's really quite interesting. And what can I do about that?
Okay, what you can do is actually put some little traps out which stop the wasps from going to the hive, and it tracks them into the trap and they can't get back out, and then dispose of the trap accordingly.
Sound advice. Okay.
So let's pop that back on there.
Bees need water, don't they? They need fresh water.
Yeah.
So we'll just...
They're sods. They will basically get it from anywhere, bees.
Okay.
So you can put a spring in place and think, oh yeah, they'll go and get their water from there. But they're just as likely to shoot up to Mrs. Miggins's house and start drinking water from her washing line, from the clothes that have been left.
That's amazing. Part of the reason I was thinking we should site our bees here is because we have this incredible, I mean, you can see how close it is. There's the beehives and Tom and Phil. And literally just down here, we have this super clear, crisp water from the spring running through this ditch. But actually, the bees will go wherever they want.
Yeah, they will. They'll do whatever they like.
Okay.
Hopefully, they will see sense and see that that's there and think, actually, it makes common sense just to go down and get it from there rather than bothering Mrs. Miggins up the road.
Amazing.
But yeah, they'll do what they do.
Oh, look, there's a couple have already jumped on.
There you go.
Do you think that they're getting the idea for what they're supposed to be doing?
Hopefully.
Okay, that's cool. When comes the part where we're screaming and rolling around on the floor, Tom?
Well, hopefully that never happens, but it could be the next 2 minutes. Also, when we're transferring them across from this into this, we want to create a load of space for them as well. The last thing we want to do is needlessly squish any bees. There's no point rushing these things.
So, slow, deliberate movements?
Slow, deliberate movements, exactly.
Okay.
So, this nuke hive here has 6 of the frames within it.
Okay.
This holds 11. So, what we'll do is we're going to leave 2 in there, just at the front. And we'll put the other 6 inside and then backfill it with the other 3 that we need inside.
In the top here, it's going to be a lot more going on because I haven't put that plastic back in, because where they brought the comb out, where I had to feed over the top over the winter.
Okay,
so just to warn you, there's a lot of there's going to be a bit going on.
There's going to be a lot of activity. So the smoker is now up and running.
Smoker is now up and running, as you can see there, as we're squeezing the bellows.
Some sexy shots of the smoker.
I positioned it in the wrong place there, down by the mid.
Wow, look at that.
Wow, they've actually created a lot of brace comb as well in there.
I don't like the camera very much. Came straight at the camera then.
There's something new inside them. So yeah, all of these, pretty much all of them, yeah, I think they are. They're all worker bees, these ones here. These are all workers, and they're just jostling around, probably looking to put some extra honeycomb, which you can see there. They wouldn't normally put.
Okay, so this is extra honeycomb.
This is some extra honeycomb, what we call brace comb or burr comb.
Okay.
So that shouldn't.
This has formed since yesterday.
Wow.
Because yesterday we had a feeder, the fond that was over the winter, and I removed it all yesterday. So they've formed all the time.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to put this near the entrance. So when we start putting the other frames inside, they may start to smell the pheromones being given off by other bees to say this is where home is, and you might see them actually going into the front. If not, we'll just shake them in.
Okay.
So we're going to be gentle with them. I'm not going to give them any smoke just yet. There's no need at the moment. We're going to take this lid off here. This is the feeder, and inside here is where we have the frames, which, as you can see, are a completely different colour to these nice new ones here.
Yes, they are, aren't they? You can see. So these are the new ones.
These are the new ones, and these are the ones that they've established.
And they've been stuck together with all of that.
They have, yeah.
Bee glue.
They have. That's right. So we're going to be gentle with this, because you never know. The queen could still be on there, and she is the most important bee in this.
Well, I'm absolutely covered in bees now. They're all over the camera. They're going everywhere. And I think the important thing to do is stay calm at this point.
It is. If you feel that they're getting a little bit too active on the top, you can actually spray a bit of smoke, and you'll see this in a moment. If I put some smoke on top, they should start to go down.
Okay, so give them some smoke and see what happens. Oh, it's almost instantaneous, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use our little tool.
All right, just try and get it closer.
This one's a funky one with a little end here, and we're going to try and remove this first frame.
Yeah.
Because they've stuck them down.
Try and break that first frame free.
We're going to have a look and see what we've got inside first of all. So generally, when bees produce honey and then they produce their brood, they almost have it like a rugby ball, where the main brood is in the centre and the food and the stores is on the outside.
Sure.
So that the most important bit, the brood, is kept nice and warm in the middle. So this is our first frame, which, as I can see on the back there, there's actually quite a lot of brood.
Wow.
So that's all capped brood, so that's all bees waiting to come out at the bottom there.
Yep.
And when you actually hold these frames, you hold them with these little lugs here. And you can probably see, as we come inside, we've got some pollen just at the top there. All sorts of different colours, depending on what's in flower at that moment. So we'll put this first one in here. We're not going to manipulate them too much. We'll put this first one in. And we'll put them in the order that they came out as well. So this was the first one, so we'll put this one just here.
Sure.
We're now going to get the hive tool. Maybe even a bit more smoke as well. Top again.
Wow, you could really hear that when you apply the smoke. They sort of, you hear them kind of get a little bit more excited.
And use a slightly different bit of hive tool. I just break apart. Now, got to use quite a force. There we go. We've actually got to use a little force on this one because they've been sort of cooped up for the winter. They've not been open for quite a few months. I'm going to open this one here. Actually see some larvae in here as well.
Where's the larvae?
Okay, so the larvae.
Can you point those out?
Can you see inside there the white larvae?
You can see the larvae on the screen. All I can see is bees hitting the front of my mesh. Yep.
These ones haven't been opened up for
First thing.
You've got a sting, have you?
In the hand.
Oh no.
Right.
Should have gone with the marigolds.
Should have gone with the marigold, shouldn't I? That'll teach me. So once you get stung once, out of interest, when you get stung once, do they set off a pheromone and all the others?
Bees, when they actually sting, they have a little barb in the end of the stinger, and it's designed over the years so that then once they've stung, it leaves a bit of the appendage still inside the venom sac with a nerve attached to it, so it keeps pumping venom in.
Oh, lovely.
And that's why, if you've been stung by a bee, you know about it because it's left the venom sac inside.
And is it possible to then pull that venom sac out?
It is, yeah, and that's advisable to try and just knock it off.
Right, okay. Okay, so we've got all the way down to the last one now.
And what we can see on the top here.
Actually got the beginning.
We've got honey.
Oh, honey.
Here we go.
Wow.
And that's all honey.
So cool.
Inside there, like so.
There they are. These bees are not happy right now. These are not happy. I think it's quite imperative you keep your cool, because the instinct may be to want to run, but at the moment I actually feel pretty good. Surprisingly, this suit is doing the business. I feel quite safe inside here.
You'll see them all spread. They'll be sticking their bums in the air, so to speak, and they'll be emitting pheromones, so the other bees know where home is.
So just to give you an idea to talk about what we were doing, this is extremely hard to film today. We've just been looking for the queen. We couldn't manage to find her there, and the bees are getting a little bit too agitated now. So under Tom's guidance, we're going to go ahead and close this down for today, and we'll probably have to revisit it another day to then identify the queen and mark her up with one of those coloured pens. And so, Tom, just quickly, that stuff there that's on top of that, is that wax?
That's wax.
Okay, so that's got an awful lot of application in bushcraft when we think about making primitive resins and glues and things. So could I harvest some of that today?
You can have that. You can take it with you.
Amazing.
You'll cut that off and you can do whatever you like with that.
Incredible. So we'll talk about some of the benefits of bees, some of the other uses other than just honey in just a moment, and what they do for the wider ecology. Okay, so that's the new frames going in around the outside.
Exactly.
And so what's in this bucket?
This is it's a sugar syrup.
Which we're going to go ahead and give the bees some food now to help them settle down. Just looks like
I think
water.
my lovely assistant is probably going to pour that in for me. Just pour it into the top. We'll put as much as we can in there. This just means they get a real good, healthy start, gives them a real good opportunity to build out a load of that comb, so then they can expand up and hopefully, by autumn, give us some honey that we can extract.
As early as autumn?
That'd be my aim. That's what I'd like for you to take that down.
So the bees come up through the middle.
Through the middle.
And then they get to the syrup.
They get to the syrup and they'll take it down with them.
Wow.
So I'm going to pop that on there like so.
Okay. And then this bit here, yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Nick.
Stick those in.
Well, we'll leave them to it. We'll try and come back and check on these periodically. When should we be checking on these again? When should we be checking on these again, Tom?
Well, maybe a week. In spring, they can actually make a lot of progress in a week. So during the spring period, you want to be checking them once a week to make sure that they don't need more space and they're not looking to swarm, and then you can take some measures to stop them from doing that. When it gets towards the summer, you can kind of wind that down to maybe every 10, maybe 12 days. In the winter, you wouldn't check on them at all, so you can go 6 months without even looking at them, just to make sure they've got food, and that's it.
Okay, cool. Right, well, I think that concludes being up close and personal with the hive. I, for one, am quite happy to go back across the bridge, undo the hood of this suit at least, and we'll take a closer look at some of the wax.
Oh, Nick,
so now we just pick up everything we came with, and we're going to go, and we're going to come back another day and maybe make a bit more of an enclosure with a camouflage net, etc. here. But for now, we're going to let these guys calm down. What's in here, Tom?
So that there is any old bits of wax that I've collected over the
Brilliant.
over the spring.
We can go talk about that by the safety of the cars.
Yeah.
Just look at that wax. Wow.
So dump this over.
Okay, so we've missed all the commotion. I have, in fact, having joked about that whole process, just been stung here on the eye. We've got the stinger out. I'll update this. If this doesn't make the final edit, it's because it was okay. In the interest of being truthful, if my eye comes out like this, then we've got to capture that on camera, haven't we? Okay, so what have we got here, Tom?
The reason why we've got this wax here is because the bees, they needed more space, which is what we've just given them. By giving them the big hive there, which kind of explains why they might be somewhat agitated. So they were desperate for it, and what they've done is they've built this extra honeycomb up here, and being greedy, they'll basically fill whatever space that they can with honeycomb and honey, and also they'll start to create brood. And this is basically beeswax.
That is absolutely incredible. Well, that's been a hell of a process, and I can't really thank you two gents for keeping me in one piece enough. It was only actually when I revealed myself at the very last moment I got caught under the eye. I don't even know what this looks like, whether it's coming up red or not, but
ooh,
yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, it's got me. What do you think of this then, Finn? Can you come and look at some beeswax? Come on.
He's not fun.
Well, it'd be interesting to see him handling some beeswax, Lou. So this is the beeswax.
That's beeswax, there you go.
Wow. What a fascinating process. Okay, cool. So think about this in bushcraft terms, what beeswax does for us. And I'm straight away thinking about maybe one of the little knives I carry in my pocket. You see the shine on that, okay? And that's that lustrous look is pretty much coming from beeswax, which is a key component in a lot of furniture polish, a lot of things that kind of preserving leather goods and bits and pieces in the outdoors. You can of course melt it down. And kind of, it's got, surprisingly, that's not smelling as sweet as I thought it might. And I also noticed there, as I picked it up out of the hive, or the top of that one, it was quite warm. Why was it quite warm?
So the bees, they regulate the hive temperature. They have to keep it a certain temperature inside. They use their bodies to create heat. They can also fan their wings to try and cool it down and create a ventilation system. So yeah, they regulate the hive temperature by
So you're telling me that bees en masse have their own thermostatic system.
They do indeed.
Within the hive. That is incredible. Well, look, Tom, thank you so much for coming along today. I'm going to say thank you to Phil as well very shortly, but Phil's busy running and being chased by a bee. The irony. Just a bit more running around. Just a bit more running around there. Getting chased about. Tilly, move. What do you think? Tilly, come here. What's this? What's this? What's this? Bee. Ooh. You're not sure what to make of it.
There's some more for you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Mate,
right.
Boys, we're not quite through the COVID thing yet, so you're going to get the fist bump. Phil, thank you so much for today. Really, really kind of you. Both these gentlemen have given up their spare time and in fact are actually members of our emergency services, and so, you know, it's very fitting and in keeping, as I'm being chased by bees, that they come down here and help us install our very first hives. Right, I'm going to keep going because I've got bees everywhere. I'm Nick from Hidden Valley Bushcraft. Thanks for watching. Bye.